My husband flew to Japan with my mother-in-law and the rest of his family so he could marry his mistress. From Tokyo, he called me, his voice dripping with arrogance. Before we come back, take your old mother, get out, and empty my house. A week later, when their taxi turned into our street and stopped in front of what used to be his mansion, their screams echoed all the way down the block. There was nothing left but level dirt. Watching from the back seat of a black car, I smiled quietly. They still had no idea who I really was. Before I tell you how everything exploded, do one small thing for me. Tell me in the comments where in the world you're watching this from. And if stories like this keep you hooked, tap like and subscribe so this channel can grow and bring you even more wild, satisfying stories. Now let me take you back to the beginning of my gilded nightmare. From the outside, our house looked like a dream. White pillars held up a Mediterranean roof, manicured gardens wrapped around a sparkling blue pool, and a line of luxury cars sat waiting in the garage. Neighbors slowed down just to stare and whisper about how lucky the owners must be. To them, my husband Daniel was the picture of success. His mother Margaret, the proud matriarch, and I, Emily, must have been the happiest wife alive. In reality, that house was a golden cage, and every room echoed with contempt. One typical night at dinner, the air conditioning hummed softly, but the room still felt icy. I served the food I'd cooked, slow-cooked beef, soup, shrimp in butter sauce, while Daniel sat at the head of the table, glued to his phone. Across from him, Margaret lounged in her silk house dress, pretty for her age, but with lips permanently curved downward, as if everything around her smelled rotten. At the side sat my mother, Grace, quietly arranging her plate, trying to make herself small. I stood by with a plain headscarf and simple clothes that never matched the glittering room. "Emily, where's my tea? You know I always drink tea at dinner," Margaret snapped without even looking at me. Her voice never asked. It commanded. "Sorry, Mom, I'll get it now," I answered softly, hurrying to the kitchen. She clicked her tongue loudly and turned to Daniel. "Look at your wife. So slow. She can't even handle small things, just like her mother. Always sitting there doing nothing." My mother flinched, her cheeks flushing red, but she kept her eyes on her plate. Daniel didn't defend us. He just muttered, "As long as the food's good." "Good food isn't enough," Margaret hissed. "A daughter-in-law should be on our level, not freeloading with a sick mother in tow." I came back with her tea, pretending I hadn't heard a thing. "Here you go, Mom," I said gently, placing the cup down. The rest of dinner passed in suffocating silence, broken only by the clink of cutlery and Margaret's endless orders. "Emily, more rice. Emily, bring the crackers." I moved around them like an unpaid maid. My mother ate in tiny bites, eyes down, terrified of making anyone angry. Daniel heard it all and did nothing. When everyone finally retreated to their rooms, I started my real workday. Daniel thought I only handled small administrative stuff in his home office, entering invoices, paying a few bills. In truth, I was a top graduate in accounting from a prestigious overseas university, something Daniel had insisted I hide. He wanted a housewife who made him look powerful, not a woman with a stronger resume than his. For 5 years, I'd sat in his expensive leather chair, managing the cash flow of his restaurant and property business, calculating profit and loss, designing tax strategies. Every report he proudly showed people had been prepared by me. The cruelest irony, that mansion Margaret bragged about stood on land my late father had left me. The initial capital for Daniel's company came from my father as well, a gift to help his future son-in-law start a business. Daniel and Margaret never knew. They preferred to believe everything came from Daniel's genius and hard work. That night, as always, I sorted through red folders filled with statements and receipts. Then I opened one rarely used account, a family investment fund meant only for big purchases. Something immediately felt wrong. Over the past 6 months, a series of large transfers had gone out on odd-numbered days to someone named Brooke. My heart hammered as I clicked through. The amounts were huge, tens of thousands of dollars in total. Not a one-time payment, but a monthly allowance. I opened the credit card statements next. There it was. High-end jewelry stores, romantic rooftop restaurants, 5-star hotels, and worst of all, a luxury baby boutique. all in the same city where Daniel claimed he had out-of-town business trips. I typed Brooke's name into social media and didn't have to search long. Her profile was public. She posed in the lobby of a hotel I recognized from the card statement, wearing a diamond necklace I'd just seen in the invoice. In other pictures, she smiled and cradled a small, growing bump under tight dresses. I stared at the screen until my eyes burned. This wasn't just cheating. He was financing another woman's entire lifestyle, and she was pregnant with his child. Meanwhile, I was treated like a servant in my own home, managing every cent so the business stayed afloat, so he could burn our money on his affair. I closed the laptop. Strangely, I didn't cry. The shock condensed into something cold and sharp inside me, like a blade being forged. That night, the obedient version of me quietly died. The next morning, I cooked breakfast like always and set the table. Daniel scrolled through the news on his tablet while I placed fried rice in front of him. "I've got an important meeting today, don't wait up," he said without looking at me. I stood across from him and spoke calmly. "Daniel, who is Brooke?" His fingers froze above the screen. Slowly, he looked up, genuinely rattled by my tone. "What are you talking about?" he snapped. "I saw the transfers from the family investment account," I said. "Regular payments, big amounts, all to a woman named Brooke. The same name on your hotel and jewelry bills. The same city, same dates as your business trips." Margaret's knife stopped halfway through buttering her toast. Her eyes narrowed. Daniel flushed deep red. "That account is none of your business," he barked. "Those are confidential investments. You wouldn't understand." "Investments in jewelry, rooftop dinners, and designer baby clothes?" I asked, still steady. "Is that what you call it?" He slammed his hand on the table. "You've been spying on me? Going through my personal finances? You don't trust me?" He tried to flip the script, raising his voice. Margaret shot to her feet. "Ungrateful woman!" she shouted at me. "My son was too kind to marry you and your sick mother. Now you dare accuse him of cheating? You're just jealous he's successful." My mother tried to speak up, but Margaret cut her off with a vicious glare. "I told you from the beginning," Margaret said to Daniel. "She isn't sincere. She's after your money. Divorce her. Throw both of them out of this house." Daniel seized the lifeline. "You've gone too far, Emily," he said with fake outrage. "Instead of supporting your husband, you create drama. I'm tired of your suspicion." I looked at the two of them, my cheating husband and the woman who raised him. I didn't cry, didn't beg. I just nodded once. "I'm sorry," I said quietly. That unexpected calm unsettled them more than any screaming match would have. For the next few days, the atmosphere grew even colder. They spoke around me, not to me, as if I were invisible. Then one evening at dinner, Margaret announced, "Next week, we're all going on a family vacation to Japan." Daniel smiled broadly for the first time in days. "I booked the best hotels in Tokyo and Kyoto," he bragged. "Time to celebrate." "We?" I asked softly, pouring soup. Margaret laughed, loud and fake. "Oh, sweetheart, not you. Someone has to take care of this huge house. And your mother. Be realistic. Dragging an old sick woman on a long flight? She'd only be a burden." Daniel didn't object. He just stared at his phone. On the morning of their flight, I helped load their expensive suitcases into the car and even packed breakfast for the ride to the airport. I straightened Daniel's collar like a good wife. "Are you sure you don't want us to drop you somewhere?" he muttered, offering the bare minimum of politeness. "No need," I said. "You already ordered a big car. I'll stay with Mom. She didn't sleep well last night." My touch was light on his shirt, but my skin felt icy. They drove away with Margaret waving like a queen from the back seat. The mansion went strangely quiet. I didn't waste a second. I walked straight to the small pavilion at the back where my mother and I had been allowed to stay. "Mom, we're leaving," I said. Grace was already dressed, confusion in her tired eyes. "Leaving? Where would we go, dear?" "Somewhere safe," I answered. "Mr. Harris is waiting outside." Mr. Harris had been my father's right-hand man for years, a discreet, loyal, middle-aged man who privately managed some of our family's assets after my father died. With his help, we slipped out of that mansion with only documents and a few clothes. We did not go to some cramped rental. We drove to a penthouse on top of one of the most luxurious apartment towers in the city. My mother gripped my arm as we stepped into the living room. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed the glittering skyline. The furniture was minimalist but expensive. Everything designed for quiet comfort, not show. No gaudy portraits, no oversized chandeliers, nothing like Margaret's tasteless palace. "Emily, this place, it must cost a fortune," Mom whispered. "We can't afford this. We can't make more trouble." Years of being humiliated had taught her to be afraid of everything. I knelt in front of her and held her hands. "Mom, breathe. This is ours. Dad bought it years ago as a backup plan. No one knows about it except Mr. Harris. You're safe here." Her eyes filled with tears. "Even after he's gone, your father still protects us," she murmured. "Always," I said. "Now rest. I'll take care of the rest." For 2 days, I focused on my mother. I called a private doctor to check her health, booked in-home massages and therapies, made sure she ate well and slept deeply. Bit by bit, the permanent fear faded from her face. In between, I shut myself in the study and worked. I tracked every move Daniel and his family made in Japan through their own social media. They didn't hold back. Photos at shrines, rooftop dinners, shopping in Ginza, fake Sakura backdrops. Sometimes they even tagged me, clearly trying to hurt me. I saved everything, every photo, every caption, every digital receipt I could still access through Daniel's accounts. I didn't feel pain anymore, just a focused, icy calm. I knew Daniel wouldn't be satisfied with flaunting his new happiness. To feel powerful, he would have to destroy me completely. On the 3rd day, the call came. My phone, still connected to the system in the old house, lit up with his name. I sat on the velvet couch, jasmine tea in hand, my mother napping peacefully in the next room. I let it ring for a few seconds, then answered the video call. Daniel's face filled the screen, smug and satisfied. He sat in a luxury restaurant. Brooke leaned against his shoulder, her pregnant belly visible under a tight dress, while Margaret grinned across the table like she'd won the lottery. "Hey, Emily," Daniel drawled. "How's life in that big empty house? Still enjoying playing maid?" Brooke giggled, the sound high and fake. I just looked at them, my face calm, my headscarf neatly pinned. My silence irritated him. "What? Speechless?" he mocked. "Let me introduce you properly. This is Brooke, my new wife. We just made it official at the consulate." Brooke flashed a huge diamond ring at the camera. "Nice to meet you, I guess," she said sweetly. Margaret cut in, impatient. "Stop wasting time, Daniel. Tell her why you really called." He smirked and leaned closer to the camera. "I just called to tell you one thing. I'm married again, properly, to someone on my level and blessed by my mother. I don't need a useless wife like you anymore. And your sick old mother?" Margaret snatched the phone. "Listen carefully," she snarled. "I'm sick of seeing you two in my son's house. When we get back, you'd better be gone." Daniel took the phone back. "You have a week," he said coldly. "Take your mother, get out, and empty my house. If you're still there when I arrive, I'll have security drag you out like trash. And don't you dare take anything but your old clothes." They waited for me to break down, to cry, to beg. I let the silence stretch, their cruelty hanging in the air. Then I smiled, slowly, a thin, chilling smile that made Margaret stop laughing. "Are you finished?" I asked calmly. Daniel blinked. "What?" "Your speech," I repeated. "Are you done? Because if you are, I'm going to hang up. I'm busy." "Busy doing what, crying?" he sneered. "Busy taking care of my life," I replied. "Oh, and Daniel, congratulations on your wedding. And congratulations, Margaret, on finally getting a daughter-in-law you think is on your level. Enjoy your vacation in Japan, really enjoy it, because it's going to be your last vacation like this." His smile faltered. "Are you threatening me?" he snapped. I laughed softly, the sound even colder than my smile. "No, I don't need to threaten you. I'm just giving you advice." My eyes locked on his. "And one more thing, Daniel, about that house. Are you sure it's yours?" Before he could spit out another insult, I ended the call. The penthouse went quiet again. I stared at the dark screen for a moment, then exhaled. Your house? I whispered to the phone. We'll see. My mother stood in the doorway, pale. She had heard enough. Emily, who was that? What's happening? I guided her to the sofa. Daniel called from Japan, I said evenly. He married Brooke there, and he told us to get out of his house before he comes home. Tears welled in her eyes. Where will we live? How will we survive? I squeezed her shoulders. Mom, listen to me. We're already safe. We're not the ones who should be afraid. I reached into the desk drawer and pulled out a second phone Daniel didn't know existed. I tapped a single speed dial number. Mr. Harris, I said when the call connected. It's time. I put him on speaker. My mother watched, stunned. I've been waiting for your signal, Miss Emily, Mr. Harris replied calmly. Everything is ready. Mom, I said gently, this is Mr. Harris, Dad's right-hand man. He's been guarding our assets all along. Good afternoon, Mrs. Grace. He greeted her respectfully. She could only nod, overwhelmed. I turned back to business. First step, money, I said. Freeze every personal account under Daniel and Margaret's names. Block all their credit cards, personal and corporate. I want their bank apps to die in their hands. Consider it done, he replied. With the current balances, they'll barely have enough cash in their wallets to buy train tickets. Good, I said. Second, the company. Daniel thinks he's the almighty CEO of Brightline Hospitality Group. In reality, Brightline is owned 90% by our family holding, Horizon Capital, through 3 shell companies. Correct, Mr. Harris confirmed. Your father left Daniel a courtesy 10% and a title. He foolishly believed he was the majority owner. My mother gasped. He never earned that company? No, Mom, I said. Dad gave him a chance because I loved him. I took a breath. Call an emergency shareholders meeting tomorrow morning. Use my authority as controlling shareholder. First agenda. Remove Daniel as CEO on suspicion of embezzlement. Embezzlement? My mother whispered. I nodded. All the money he's been wasting on Brooke, jewelry, hotels, this entire trip, came from company accounts labeled as representation expenses. I've kept every receipt. We'll appoint an interim CEO and launch a full forensic audit, Mr. Harris said. I'll have our legal team prepare a criminal complaint. Once Daniel sets foot back in the country, the police can move. I looked at the photo of the mansion on my laptop. Third, the house, I said. The land is in my name as part of my inheritance, right? Yes, he confirmed. The structure itself is complicated. It was built partly using company funds Daniel misappropriated. I don't care about the building, I said quietly. That house is soaked in Margaret's insults and Daniel's betrayal. It's a shrine to their cruelty. We can legally seize it and evict them when they return, Mr. Harris suggested. I shook my head, even though he couldn't see it. Too merciful. They wanted me and my mother homeless. They wanted us to suffer. I'll give them exactly what they wished for, just not in the way they expected. My eyes hardened. Hire the best demolition crew we have on contract. They have until Daniel manages to crawl back home. 2, maybe 3 days. I don't want a single brick left standing. Level everything. There was a brief pause. Are you sure, Miss Emily? Mr. Harris asked. I want them to come home to naked ground, I replied. Just dirt and a sign. Put up a big board at the front. This asset has been returned to its rightful owner. Trespassers will be prosecuted. And put Horizon Capital's logo across the bottom. As you wish, he said. When the call ended, I leaned back in my chair. For the first time in 5 years, I felt like I could truly breathe. My mother stared at me with a mix of fear and pride. You're your father's daughter, she whispered. I smiled, this time warmly, just for her. Yes, Mom. And they just woke the giant he left sleeping. While the demolition crews moved in back home, Daniel, Margaret, and Brooke were busy celebrating their victory in Japan. From their photos and posts, I could see everything. Brooke paraded down luxury streets carrying shopping bags from brand-name stores. Margaret clinked champagne glasses in hotel lounges, and Daniel posed between them, one hand on Brooke's belly, the other around his mother's shoulders. The captions were cruel. Finally found real happiness, one read, with family that matches my level and a wife who knows how to appreciate me. His relatives commented with fake enthusiasm, cheering on his new start. Fully aware I was being replaced, I quietly filed every screenshot. On the fourth night, Daniel booked a private room at one of the most exclusive steak restaurants in Shinjuku. I only know this because he bragged about it in a story that I saved before he could delete it. They gorged themselves on Wagyu and top-shelf sake like there was no tomorrow. Daniel toasted, "To my growing empire, to Mom's future grandchild, and to the family that really deserves my wealth." Margaret laughed until she turned red. Brooke preened, one hand on her stomach, convinced she had won the ultimate prize. They had no idea the iceberg was already tearing through the hull under their feet. When the bill arrived, it was enough to buy a small car. Daniel didn't bother looking at the total. He slid his black corporate card across the table with a smirk. "This card pays for everything," he bragged to the waiter. A few minutes later, the waiter returned, polite but uneasy. "I'm sorry, sir. Your card was declined." The laughter at the table died instantly. Daniel frowned. "Try again. Your machine must be glitching." The waiter disappeared and came back shortly. "Still declined, sir. The notice says, 'Do not honor.'" Daniel's jaw clenched. He yanked out a personal platinum card. "Use this." It was declined too. So was the third card. Sweat beaded on his forehead. Margaret leaned in, whispering harshly, "What's going on, Daniel? Don't embarrass us." "Shut up, Mom," he hissed, panic rising. He grabbed his debit card, the one attached to his main personal account. When the portable terminal beeped, the screen flashed. "Transaction declined. Insufficient funds." He snatched his phone and opened his banking app, fingers flying. Instead of his balances, he saw a cold message. "Your accounts have been frozen at the bank's request. Please contact your branch." From our city, the restrictions we'd set up had just slammed shut. The restaurant manager approached. "Sir, we'll need some form of payment tonight, or collateral." Daniel stared at his wrist. On it gleamed a limited edition watch he'd bought 2 days earlier in Ginza, a watch he'd proudly paraded online. With shaking hands, he unclasped it. "This," he said hoarsely. "It's worth 3 times tonight's bill. Keep it as security. I'll be back with cash tomorrow." The manager examined it and nodded. "We'll expect you by noon." They left in stiff silence. Their relatives, who had witnessed everything from nearby tables, suddenly remembered they were tired and disappeared quickly, not wanting to be associated with the scandal. Back in the suite, chaos erupted, shouting, accusations, tears. Daniel tried calling his bank, his office, his contacts. None of his usual safety nets picked up. "This is her," he shouted finally. "Emily did this. She must have hacked my accounts. She stole my money while we were gone." Brooke's face drained. "Stole? But isn't she just a clueless housewife? How could she do that?" "I don't know," he raged, pulling at his hair. "Maybe she hired someone. She's been planning this." Margaret paced like a trapped animal. "I told you she was bad news," she shrieked. "Now look at us. You've humiliated me in front of everyone." She whirled on Brooke. "And you, ever since you showed up, everything fell apart. You're bad luck." "Excuse me?" Brooke screamed back. "I'm carrying your grandchild. Maybe blame the man who lied to both of us." Their fight turned physical, hair pulling and slapping, until a sharp ring from the room phone cut through the noise. Daniel answered, breathing hard. It was the front desk. "Good evening, Mr. Daniel," the clerk said, voice cool. "We've just received notification that the card used for your room deposit has been canceled by the bank. As per policy, we need full payment for your stay tonight. If you can't settle the bill within the hour, we'll have to ask you to check out." When he hung up, true panic set in. They had no money for the hotel, no money for food, no money to get home. The next day, they crept out of the luxury district, dragging their suitcases into back alleys to pawn the very jewelry they'd just bought. Margaret sobbed as she handed over her treasured diamond necklace. Brooke surrendered her bracelets and rings. They received a fraction of what everything was worth. With the cash,